Hello and welcome to the Anatomy of Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Studley, and today I'm doing a little bonus episode. Seth is out on a client call, and I had this sort of insight as I was answering a listener email, and I wanted to talk about it because I don't know how much we've talked about it on the show, and I'm calling this little bonus episode, Stop Being a Bully in Your Relationship. And this comes from my experience of being the bully in our marriage. I would never let up. I was like relentless that I was right. I was relentless that everything was Seth's fault, that if things were different, I'd be happy, that I wasn't happy because things weren't, perfectly lined up how I wanted them to be. I was like dominating our relationship in every way that I could, from everything from like how Seth talked, who he talked to, where we lived, how our house lived, what our cars were, what we ate, and it wasn't always this like overtly dominant looking from the outside thing, but it was consistently being disapproving of Seth's choices, consistently being disapproving of what had happened. Like I never was on the same page with Seth. I was always just like, oh, I don't like that, or this is bad, or blah, blah, blah. And I was complaining. I was criticizing what he did. I was not bringing value, and I wasn't being helpful. I was bullying him, essentially. I was bullying and sort of strong-arming our relationship with all of my demands, all of my requests, all of my requirements to be mildly satisfied with him. And it wasn't fair. And so I was recently answering an email where the person was saying that it felt like their partner was kind of bullying them. And I immediately, my heart breaks because I was doing that to Seth forever. And I didn't know it. And he tried to tell me, but I was so determined to be like, I know what's right. I know what's better. I blah, 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 that I wouldn't even let him tell me, hey, this is not helpful. I just snowplowed him with all of the things that I thought and felt, and that wasn't okay, and it wasn't healthy, and it wasn't good. And yeah, Seth had some things that weren't great or healthy about his own personality, but nothing compared to the bullying that I was doing in our relationship. So I've taken some notes, that's why I keep looking down. But there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. If you're a bully, or if you're married to a bully, and these are hard conversations to have, so I'm not acting like it's easy to be like, tell your partner, hey, you're a bully, stop. But I want to just kind of open it up and think about it and talk about it and have a new thoughts about it in case it helps anybody, right? So if you are a person and you've heard from more than one person, maybe only two people, that you have a particular type of attitude, you might want to listen to them. So if you've had someone say, oh, well, you're really picky, and you've had another person say, oh, well, nothing ever makes you happy, so it's not surprising, right? So if you've had interactions like that where people are telling you that you're hard to please, or that you're pushy, or you always get your way, or you'll pitch a fit if you don't get your way, listen to that language and those people and hear what they are saying beneath that. And really listen. Don't blow it off. Those people aren't dumb people. They're people who have experienced you. And you know who hasn't experienced you? You haven't experienced you. You don't know what it's like to talk to you. I learned that I was a bully by making this podcast. I listened back to my conversations with Seth. I'm the one who cuts out when I'm mean to him in our little run-throughs. Like if we mess up and I stop the camera, I'm the one who hears what I am saying to him. So I hear him go, why'd you say that? That didn't make any sense. Blah, 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 right? I only know that I'm a bully because I've witnessed it through videotape and audio. And it sucks. And I hate that I was that way. And I'm still that way sometimes, like a lot of times. But I'm finally listening to people who say it. I'm finally listening to Seth when he says, that doesn't feel good to be talked to that way. One of my best friends told me that I was mean, and she was serious. And I finally started listening and saying, wait, maybe these people are onto something, right? So if more than one person has told you that you do a particular thing, like you're hard to please, or you're picky, or you're whatever, listen to them. And this can also come from your children. Children are not just like dummies. They sometimes have wisdom that you don't have. So listen, if your children are saying, you never listen to me, you always argue with me, or whatever, listen to their words. And these are, if this is something you're experiencing in a relationship, This is really great, a really great place for a mediator or a counselor or a therapist to step in. Bullies don't like therapists because bullies always think they're right. I didn't like therapists because I always thought I was right. But your partner is half of your marriage. If you're plowing over them and saying everything must be done your way, we're going to do every single thing the way that, Goddess Melanie thinks it should be or whatever, that's not okay. You're not, you're just being a jerk. Like, it doesn't matter what forget honoring and respecting your partner. You're being a jerk. So don't do that and go reach out to a therapist. If your partner says they want to go reach out to a therapist or a counselor, listen to them. Don't be a fart face about it, right? Halfway talking to myself on that one. If you think that everyone else is wrong, that's a bad sign. If you think that everyone else is like a sissy or they just can't handle you, that's not a good sign. That means you're not good at relationships, okay? Again, I'm talking to myself. When people say, that was rude, that's a sign that I am deficit in relational skills. That means I do say things that are too blunt because I'm not factoring in someone else's feelings. That does not mean that person is a wimp and they can't handle anything. That means that I have done a disservice in a relational way to someone else. And yes, there are sensitive people in the world. So if you hear this one time, maybe that's different. But if you hear this more than once in your life, which I did, I heard it from many people, that means that I have the deficit, not them. So listen, if you think that you're always the only one that's right, check yourself, okay? If you're never content, if you're never okay, if you always have a problem, if you're never calm, if everything is always drama with you, then you might be bullying relationally in your marriage. And what's funny is that our middle kid, Tough, has always been kind of a tough kid to parent. And when he was probably like 2, 3, and 4, and maybe even to 5, we would call him an emotional terrorist because he would come in and just like ransom the whole room. Everyone would be like, okay, what's he going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to make sure he's not upset? And my dad called him an emotional terrorist once, which we thought was funny, but like it was so appropriate. And so don't be that in your relationships. Don't be that in your family. Like, don't make your kids held hostage to your emotional trauma and drama. Don't let your husband or wife be held hostage. It's not fair, and it sucks to be married to someone like me. It sucks when I can walk into a room and like take all the happiness out of it because of my lists of demands. Although there's 5 people in this room, I think I'm so important that only my desires matter. That is so terrible. Don't do it. And if your partner does that, play them this podcast. They'll get mad, but sign up for the therapist first and then play the podcast. Maybe don't do any of those things. Let's see, what else is there? Okay, the last thing is kind of interesting, and I was thinking of it as I was writing, but everyone in your relationship, if you're a bully, everyone wants you to stop. You're the only one who doesn't want to stop. And you're the only one who thinks it's okay to keep doing that. Nobody else thinks it's okay. Everyone else would love you better, could love you easier, could love you more deeply if you would knock it off, but you won't stop. And you need to stop. So I'm speaking to myself. I'm saying all the things I wish someone would have said to me. No one is going to be like, oh, what an idiot. He stopped being a jerk. I wish he was still a jerk again. No one's going to do that. Nobody's going to be mad if you start being kind, content, being respectful, thoughtful, listening to other people's feelings. No one's going to be mad at you for that. You're going to feel awkward, but nobody else is going to be upset. Everyone else is going to be happy and thankful and applaud you for your job well done, right? And then the last thing was, if your goal in relationships is to always be right over being loving, then everyone loses. Everyone loses if you have to always be right. And I was always trying to be right, and everybody lost, me included. I was just too stubborn to admit it. So that's my rant on bullying. I just really felt convicted and wanted to share it. I hope that this helps anybody, and we love you. Have a good day. Rate the podcast on iTunes if you like the work that we're doing. It helps us a lot. Have a good day. Bye.